What's good? Here's Russell Kenner. Today we're going to discuss the recent episode of Monday Night Raw. Finna jump straight into it. Starts off with Judgment Day, Logan Paul, and Patrick Mahomes. They're in Kansas City. They made a emphasis to emphasize that they're in Kansas City. They're all on the outside the stadium, finna walking towards the stadium. Damian Priest and Logan Paul are basically showing love to each other, congratulating each other, hyping each other up. Talk about them winning championships. Then Logan Paul starts talking about Damian, talk about Judgment Day. Then he starts alluding to his backlash match against Jey Uso, and he ends up saying that you got a match against the ugly Uso, bro. What's his name? What is his name? Damian Priest ends up saying Jey Uso. Logan Paul ends up dissing Jey Uso, which would allude to what's going to happen later on in the match, and then they all go inside the stadium. Then we got Becky Lynch. She could cut to promo. Glad she got great reaction because all the hate she was getting on the internet was ridiculous, but she got great reaction in this promo. The crowd was very hyped for her. She ends up talking about how she made history in Kansas City because that's her rise of fame. That's when the infamous bloody nose incident happened with Nia Jax. Then she starts talking about how she hasn't been champion for 2 years, how she finally able to be a champion, how she wants to hold the championship and never let it go. Then she starts alluding to her next opponent. Then Liv Morgan comes out, theme music hit, she comes out, ends up saying that she has a microphone, ends up saying that if you're looking for your next opponent, here I am, walks up to the ring, and she ends up saying that you owe me anyway, because the truth is, you're only holding that title because I did what you couldn't do, which is take out Rhea Ripley, and she ends up saying that I won't stop until I have everything I want. Becky Lynch ends up saying that you're right, you did take out Rhea Ripley, but you will be holding this title if it wasn't for what I did to you. Funny how that works. Thank God she replied with that because I was like, that wasn't a really good comeback, Liv, only because I'm like, you did lose the Battle Royal, so even if you took out Rhea Ripley, you didn't win the title at the Battle Royal, so you taking out Liv is not really a good argument for Becky Lynch holding the title. That was a good comeback. She ends up saying, funny how that works. Nia Jax comes out. She comes out with a microphone. The crowd is booing her. They was booing her. She ends up saying the crowd was rude. She calling them idiots. The crowd was just booing Nia Jax. She ends up saying that I dominated both of you last week. I should be champion right now. The only reason I'm not champion is because teamed up you two teamed up against me. But tonight is my last night on Raw. The crowd cheered when she said that. And she ends up saying, if I'm leaving tonight, I'm taking one of you with me. Liv Morgan instantly, because she was on the rope, she was on like the ring apron ropes when she said that. Liv Morgan ends up doing like some type of drop kick, ends up attacking Nia Jax. Liv ends up picking up a microphone, ends up saying that if you was going to make a challenge for tonight, I accept. So later on, we're gonna get later on, on Monday Night Raw that I'm gonna review. We end up getting Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. Now we get the first round of draft picks. Stephanie McMahon comes out. Glad to see Stephanie back. She ends up saying the draft picks. Raw ends up selecting Imperium. They end up selecting, Gunther and Ludwig. No Giovanni Vinci, so he's officially out of the group. SmackDown ends up selecting Jade Cargill. That was obvious. You got to keep Bianca and Jade. They're going after the tag titles. Raw ends up selecting Damage Control. This is very shocking. This shocked me. Glad the Damage Control is on there. Raw needs more women on that roster. They need to build up the women's division on Raw. The women's division isn't as weak as it was before, thank God. And this is amazing. And I'm happy because we're finally ending that trash feud with Bianca Belair and Damage Control. Once they take those titles off of the Kabuki Warriors, it's over. They're on separate brands. Please let them stay away from each other. We do not need that feud no more. Same thing with Bayley. Let it rest. Now, if they want to, come back in the future and feud with Bayley, fine. But let it rest for now. We don't need it no more. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of Damage Control and Bianca. I don't want them nowhere near each other. I'm sick of that feud. End it at Backlash. It's no more. I'm tired of that feud. Oh my God, I'm sick and tired of that feud. But SmackDown ends up selecting Kevin Owens. That's obvious. Kevin Owens is going to be in the Bloodline storyline, so he was going to stay on SmackDown. Now we got Gunther versus Xavier Woods. This was a decent match, solid match. Um, Xavier towards like the middle of the match, Xavier Woods' legs ends up getting caught in the ropes. That kind of scared me for a moment because I kind of got scared because that's very dangerous. But it was a part of the match because Gunther starts attacking the leg and stuff. Because typically when an opponent's leg get caught in the ropes, typically either the ref or the other opponent will like help them get out, but they didn't do that. Gunther starts attacking the leg while he's stuck in the ropes, starts kicking it. Then he goes to the outside and ends up punching it. Then they end up making that part of the match, telling the story that his leg is injured. Later in the match, towards the end of the match, Gunther has Xavier in a submission, working his leg. Then Xavier cannot get out of the submission. He can't grab the ropes. Kofi Kingston ends up going towards the barricade, asks someone for a towel. He got a white towel. He's asking Xavier, "Do you want me to throw it in the towel? Do you want me to throw in the towel?" Xavier says, "No, I can do it. I can do it." Kobe Kingston ends up throwing the towel into the crowd. The crowd gets hyped. I thought when he threw it in the crowd, I thought Xavier was going to find some way to get out the submission. He did find a way to get out the submission, but Gunther ends up putting him in another submission, puts him in the FTF, and Xavier Woods tap out, which is very shocking. Very shocking he went that route. I'm actually excited that they did that route because they never make baby faces tap out, which is shocking. Outside of, recently with Stand and Deliver with Lyra Valkyria tapping out, baby faces never tap out. So, and submissions rarely ever work in WWE. So, I actually am happy that they made someone tap out because it never happens. But Imperium ended up picking up the victory. Don't know where they go from here, but we'll see. Next, we got Jey Uso. He ends up getting interviewed by Kathy Kelly. Kathy Kelly ends up, asking him about how he feels about being the number one pick, and talk about the match at Backlash. Jey Uso basically said it feels great to be the number one pick, and he's excited for his match at Backlash. He's going to win, of course. Then Kathy Kelly alludes to Logan Paul. Jey Uso interrupts. He ends up saying that I'm glad that we was able to have a Paul brother in the WWE, but I just wish it was the one with a winning record, sending shots at Logan Paul. Then, so that's going to allude to what they're going to a segment they're going to have next. Actually, Logan Paul and IShowSpeed. IShowSpeed ends up showing up. They end up saying the next round of draft picks. For this round, Raw ends up selecting CM Punk. That was an obvious pick. SmackDown ends up selecting The Pride. They're staying on SmackDown. Raw selects Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is returning to the ring, and he actually makes his debut tonight. So he ends up returning tonight in the next segment that's going to come up. So Braun Strowman is returning, and it looks like he may be a single star. So it looks like they may show him as that dominant force he was a few years back. So we'll see how that goes. SmackDown ends up selecting Tiffany Stratton. Of course, she was going to stay on SmackDown. She has a match at Backlash for Bayley's WWE Women's Championship, so it makes sense. Now, after Logan Paul and IShowSpeed, say the draft picks, Logan Paul gets on the microphone, ends up saying that I came to Kansas City to make some draft picks, maybe to celebrate with Patrick Mahomes, but I got here and Jey Uso running his mouth. For what? Telling the truth. Then he gets up to got to a fan's face in the crowd, and he ends up saying it super loud. Here's the truth, stupid. Damian Priest will beat Jey Uso. Then he gets the ring and ends up saying that because Jey made a mistake, he made a mistake for leaving the bloodline. He's incapable of winning a championship on his own. Something I became a master at. Then Jey Uso ends up coming out. Theme music hit. Crowd going crazy. They're doing the signature, throwing their hands up and down. Crowd goes crazy. Then Jey Uso ends up saying that Logan Paul making predictions for Backlash. Then he ends up asking the crowd, Kansas City, do you think I could beat Damian Priest? Do you think I could be World Heavyweight Champ? Then he ends up saying that, do you think I should knock the yeet out of Logan Paul for running his mouth? The crowd, of course, is screaming yeet each time. Then We get Logan Paul. Logan Paul ends up saying that, do you think you can out yeet me? For all my little gangsters, I've been yeeting since 2017. Then he did this weird cringe yeet where I don't know what he said, but it was very cringe. It was very cringe what he did afterwards. Then he ends up saying that, then he ends up saying, little brother Uso trying to roast me. You you ain't good when you alone. That's why you got kicked out of the bloodline. Then he ends up saying the difference between you and I is my bloodline is tight. JD McDonough and Finn Balor ends up coming into the ring. They're on the left side of the ring apron. Jay Uso is like in the middle, and Logan Paul ends up saying that Jay Uso all alone again, couldn't fend for himself then, can't fend for himself now. Then Jay Uso ends up attacking JD and Finn Balor, but he's outnumbered. He ends up getting outnumbered. Judgment Day get the upper hand. Then Logan Paul ends up going to the outside. He goes towards Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes hands him his championship rings. Logan Paul ends up wearing his championship rings. Goes inside. Finn Balor and JD McDonough is holding Jay Uso. Well, JD McDonough is holding Jay Uso, holding him in position for Logan Paul to punch him in the face. Logan Paul goes for the punch, and then Jay Uso dodges the punch, and then Logan Paul accidentally punches JD McDonough. Finn Balor, Logan Paul are shocked. Then Jay Uso walks up behind him and starts clowning him for punching JD McDonough. Then Jay Uso attacks Finn Balor but gets outnumbered again. Logan Paul ends up attacking Jay Uso. Then Braun Strowman comes out, makes the save, chokeslam Finn Balor. After he chokeslam Finn Balor, him and Logan Paul has a stare down. Braun Strowman tries to chase after Logan Paul, but he ends up running away. Then we had a little moment where Braun Strowman is like staring like away from the camera, and then he looks towards Patrick Mahomes and starts talking towards Patrick Mahomes like he was gonna fight him or something. But Jay Uso is pulling him back. So Braun Strowman makes his return, and it looks like he's gonna be that dominant force that he once was. But we'll have to see how it plays out. Next, we got a little segment with Chad Gable and Awesome Truth. Gable and Truth are talking to each other, and they agree to some type of deal. Miz comes in and he's like, I just talked to Adam Pearce, says that we got a match for our championships tonight. Truth ended up saying, yeah. I just talked to Chad Gable. He gave us a deal. He ends up saying that we gotta do this thing where we get one now and two later. Miz, of course, is confused because that doesn't make sense. And Truth ends up repeating it again. He ends up saying one now, two later, like the candy. I'm like, R-Truth is just a natural treasure, man. R-Truth is just funny, man. Miz is confused. Then Truth talked about the draft, talked about how the draft is special, and talked about how they could even get drafted to the NFL. Miz ends up saying, of course, tries to tell Truth, get him on the right path. Of course, ends up telling him, we're not we're in the WWE draft, right? Truth says, I do know now. Then Truth ends up saying, who can I talk to? Miz ends up saying, I don't know, maybe Patrick Mahomes, he's here. Truth ends up saying the insurance guy. He ends up saying the insurance guy, I could get a bundle on my house. R-Truth is hilarious. R-Truth is just a natural treasure. He is just hilarious. Him just being this dumb, goofy character. I love R-Truth. Afterwards, Miz and Truth leave. Chad Gable, he was just standing there listening to the conversation. After they leave, Sami Zayn runs up, hits a haluva kick to Chad Gable, getting his payback for what happened last week on Monday Night Raw. Next, we got Booker T. He has an interview. He's getting interviewed about, the draft. And Booker T starts talking about the draft picks, and then he starts talking about CM Punk. Talks about how CM Punk got drafted to Raw. Talks about how that's a great pick for Monday Night Raw. Then Drew McIntyre interrupts, comes from behind Booker T, and ends up doing the signature Booker T saying, ends up saying that, tell me you did not just say that. And then he ends up saying, do you think it's 2010? You think the guy that did one match and got injured deserved to get picked over me? The man who injured him, the man who won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 40, you telling me that he deserved to get picked over me? Booker T ends up saying that you're talking about the title that you don't have right now. Drew ends up, of course, getting angry. He ends up saying that, you know what happened to me, Booker. Booker T ends up replying, says, do you know what happened to? Do you know what happened? Drew ends up saying that, replying, ends up saying that, I was there with you back then. I know how you really feel about CM Punk. You changed. Then storms off. Drew McIntyre is still super obsessed with CM Punk. Can't get CM Punk out of his head. Still very mad. And he's letting CM Punk run his life. He just can't get CM Punk out of his head. And he's basically obsessed with him. Now we got Bronson Reed versus Sami Zayn. This was an alright match. Um, Sami Zayn hits a haluva kick, goes for the pin, but Chad Gable ends up, as Sami Zayn pins him, Chad Gable comes out of nowhere, picks up Sami Zayn, and does a German suplex. Of course, the match ends in disqualification. And then he's attacking Sami Zayn, constantly attacking him, puts him in an ankle lock, has him in an ankle lock. The referees have to break it up. Then, after the refs break it up, Bronson Reed ends up doing the tsunami onto Sami Zayn. Then, after he does that, Chad Gable ends up picking up the Intercontinental title and ends up holding it over Sami Zayn's head. But Bronson Reed ends up body slamming Chad Gable, ends up attacking him. Then he holds the title above Sami Zayn and Chad Gable. I like this. I like that Bronson Reed didn't just watch Chad Gable, hold the title and attack Sami, because it's like, bro, you interrupted my match, bro. This was my opportunity to win the Intercontinental Championship. Like, bro, come on. And I think they're going to make it a triple threat. I don't think they're going to make it. I think they're going to make it a triple threat because Bronson Reed wants the title, Chad Gable wants the title. I think they're going to make it a triple threat at Backlash, which I would love. Now, Sami Zayn is going to win that match. I don't see a way that either Gable or Bronson Reed to win. Me personally, I would love for Bronson Reed to win because I love Bronson Reed, but realistically, he's not winning that championship for a while. They're going to give it to Gable before Bronson, which I'm not mad at because Gable deserves it. But I'm very interested to see how that match goes. Next, we got the next round of draft picks. We got JBL and Ron Simmons. Raw ends up selecting the LWO, which surprised me. They drafted LWO. I love that. I love that we got a little bit more brand switching, which is good. SmackDown ends up selecting, Legado del Fantasma, so they're staying on SmackDown. Raw ends up selecting Drew McIntyre. Shockingly, it took like 3 rounds. I think this is the third round. The third round for Drew McIntyre. It took 3 rounds for Drew McIntyre to get selected. Then SmackDown ends up selecting Shinsuke Nakamura. So Shinsuke is going on SmackDown. I like that. They could probably revisit the whole Cody Rhodes and Shinsuke feud. So that's interesting. Now after this, we got Drew McIntyre. He cuts a promo. And yeah. After this, we got Drew McIntyre. He cuts a promo. He comes out, cuts a promo. He ends up saying, am I the only sane person around here? In what world does Drew McIntyre get drafted in the third round? There's nobody that can tell me that makes sense. CM Punk chants go crazy. CM Punk chants constantly keep going. He ends up responding, you think it's cool to chant his name? He is now a corporate ass kisser. Then he ends up congratulating CM Punk. He ends up saying, Punk, congratulations. You finally accomplished something since coming back from WWE. He ends up saying, you hurt Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania when you attacked me from behind like a coward. You fractured my elbow. And he ends up saying that unlike you staying at home, I came to work because I'm a real man. CM Punk theme music hit. It was playing for a little bit. Drew McIntyre was looking for him. He's looking for him towards the entranceway. And Drew McIntyre thought he was playing a game. But then you see CM Punk, he starts talking. And he's in the skybox. And then Drew McIntyre starts looking directly at CM Punk in the skybox. CM Punk is up saying that, I'm not sitting at home, Drew. I'm right here, you little bitch. Love that, bro. The crowd goes crazy. I love that. Drew McIntyre is frustrated. He's mad. And he ends up running off. And he ends up going to search for CM Punk. And then after that, you get Ron Simmons ends up doing his traditional iconic damn afterwards. Now, then after that, we get a quick segment with Alpha Academy. You got Maxine Dupree, Otis, and Kira Tozawa. They're hyping Maxine Dupree up. She's hype. She's talking about, what happened at the Battle Royal, talked about how she got two eliminations. Chad Gable comes in, and, Maxine Dupree ends up talking about, the two eliminations she got. And then Gable ends up, being sarcastic, ends up talking about, oh, two eliminations. He ends up saying, so can I see your championship? Can I see the title that you won? Maxine, in a very sad, depressed voice, ends up saying, I didn't win. Gable ends up saying, of course you didn't win, which means you lost. And he ends up saying, you want me to celebrate mediocrity? You want a ribbon for participating? It's pathetic. And then he ends up saying that, then he ends up talking to Otis and Akira Tozawa, and he ends up telling them that, get me a championship, get me some gold, and which will allude to the match that they're going to have with Awesome Truth, which probably was a part of the deal. Then we got a quick little segment, which I personally didn't understand why this was a part of the show, but it is. Bron Breakker gets interviewed. It gets interrupted by Sheamus, of all people. And Sheamus was finna give props to Bron Breakker. He was finna hype him up. But then Drew McIntyre walked past him. And then that's basically it. He walks past him. And Sheamus looked towards, the direction Drew McIntyre went. And then Bron Breakker walks away. And then it cuts off with Sheamus has a certain look on his face. Don't know why they showed that. Because I get that they're still building the Sheamus and Drew McIntyre story. But really didn't need this, to be honest. There was really no purpose of this. But next up, we got Candice LeRae versus Maxine Dupree. Not going to spend too much time on this. In the middle of the match, Candice LeRae is in an ankle lock by Maxine Dupree. Indy Hartwell ends up attacking Ivy Nile on the outside towards the ring post. That distracted Maxine Dupree. And Candice LeRae ends up getting the upper hand and wins the match via distraction. I don't hate this storyline. I actually like it. I just think it needs more progressing, because right now it feels like it's kind of at a stalemate. It's not really progressing. It feels like the same thing is happening over and over and over again. But to be fair, I think I know why it's happening over and over again, because I'm not going to, towards the next few draft picks, it may be a reason why it's happening over and again. But next up, we got a quick little interview segment with LWO. I forgot who was interviewing. I think it was Kathy Kelly, but I could be wrong. They're going to interview. They start asking about Carlito, of course. Rey Mysterio basically says there's unfinished business for Carlito, and he don't know why Carlito did what he did, but it's unfinished business there. Dominic Mysterio interrupts, and he ends up saying, don't forget Judgment Day runs Monday Night Raw, and welcome back. Rey ends up responding, ends up saying, how do you run Monday Night Raw? But you haven't been drafted. And then he ends up saying, what's that on your lip? You dirty Sanchez. He's talking about that mustache. Dominic got mad, ends up saying that lucky I'm not cleared. That cuts away from that. So, and I love that FWO got drafted to Raw, because, of course, Judgment Day is going to get drafted to Raw. And you're going to have that rivalry between Dom and Rey. Now, could this allude to Rey Mysterio retiring? Because I don't know if this is his last year, but this could be, the end of Rey Mysterio. And Dominic Mysterio is the only person that should retire Rey Mysterio. So we could get that, but we don't know. Next, we got Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is I don't know where he's at, but he's somewhere in the stadium, and he's searching for Drew McIntyre. He's searching for him, He's asking people. He's like, where's CM Punk? Where's CM Punk? He finally finds the room that CM Punk, the skybox that CM Punk was in. CM Punk is not in the skybox anymore. Doesn't find him. He's frustrated. He ends up finding an autographed picture of CM Punk, which I thought was hilarious. Of course, he balls it up, throws it. Then CM Punk makes his entrance while Drew McIntyre's in the skybox. Drew McIntyre is pissed. He is so angry. He looks down at CM Punk making his entrance. CM Punk is just staring at Drew McIntyre, making Drew McIntyre look like a dumbass. Goes to the ring, cuts a promo. Then Drew McIntyre is still in the skybox. He's just watching CM Punk in the ring doing his promo. CM Punk ends up saying that I love the city of Kansas. I love Kansas City. I love the people. So I don't want to waste your time like Drew McIntyre. So I'm gonna do this in less time than the last time you were world champion. That was a very good shot. Which mean then he ends up saying, which means I got 5 minutes and 46 seconds. He ends up telling Pat McAfee to end up timing him. So they end up starting the timer. Then he ends up sitting down like he typically does. Then CM Punk starts off the promo. He says, "This would normally be where I ask you, I have your attention? Do I have your attention now? But I can see that I had your attention for quite some time. He ends up saying that you're like an ex-girlfriend that I can't get rid of. Then he ends up saying that I injured your elbow. He said, I injured your elbow good because you prayed for mine. I thought you hurt yourself on Twitter tweeting because that's all you're good for. And that's why I was drafted before you. He's CM Punk is up saying that I'm not mad or looking for revenge. You gave me purpose. The reason I was drafted before you is simple because I am the best in the world, best in the ring, best on the microphone, even the best on the commentary. Then he ends up saying that losers hope for things to happen, losers pray for things to happen, winners winners make it happen. And when I am cleared, I promise you, I'm going to make your life a living hell. Great promo. Music goes off. I think they say he cut his promo in like 2 minutes or something. Drew McIntyre is up in the skybox. He's just pissed as hell. I'm excited for this feud. The funny thing is, it's funny how when CM Punk first got introduced to WWE, we was all excited for Seth Rollins and CM Punk. But if we're being honest, I think most of us can say we're more excited for Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. That feud is going to be for the summer. When hopefully CM Punk, it looks like CM Punk is, recovering well, and Drew McIntyre should be back by that time. But that feud, if that feud happens around SummerSlam, oh man, that feud is going to cook, man. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. Next up, we got Teddy Long and Alundra Blaze. They end up saying the next picks for Raw and SmackDown. Raw selects Judgment Day, of course. SmackDown ends up selecting Naomi, of course, that's obvious. Raw selects Ilya Dragunov. About damn time. About damn time, he's drafted, and it's amazing. I can't wait. He's going to put on banger matches. I can't wait. Him and Braun Breaker on the same brand. Oh my God. The matches that they can have is amazing. I can't wait. Him versus Gunther. Him versus Seth Rollins. Him versus possibly CM Punk if they do that. Like, the matches are endless with Ilya Dragunov. I'm excited. SmackDown ends up selecting Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. That was a shocker. I like them going to SmackDown, adding some tag teams to SmackDown. I like that. Then now we got Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. This was a quick match. Nothing too major happened in this match, but Tiffany Stratton was on the outside watching the match. I knew when Tiffany Stratton was on the outside, I knew some shenanigans was going to happen. Tiffany Stratton was outside watching the match. Then Naomi ends up coming out, attacking Tiffany Stratton. They're brawling. Naomi is on like the ring apron. Nia Jax gets distracted, ends up attacking Naomi, knocks her off the ring apron. Then Liv Morgan ends up taking advantage. She ends up hitting her finisher, the Oblivion, ends up picking the victory, and Liv Morgan won. And Liv Morgan won, and that ended up gaining the respect of Becky Lynch. And Becky Lynch is going to give Liv Morgan a championship opportunity. Then next, after that, we got more draft picks. The Dudley Boys came out. They're announcing the draft picks for Raw and SmackDown. Raw is up selecting The New Day. Makes sense. SmackDown selects Pretty Deadly. They're staying on SmackDown. Then another shocking pick. Raw selects Lyra Valkyria. Man, I love this pick. This is great. Raw get another top woman. They're really building up the Raw roster. And I love it. Kiana James and Lyra Valkyria going to Raw. Love it. Lyra Valkyria also, she won't get lost in the shuffle. She already has a storyline set in place. She could easily feud with Kiana James if she wants to. She could feud with Becky Lynch again. Well, she wasn't really feuding with her, but she could easily go after Becky Lynch again, build up that story. I'm the one that beat you. The mentor versus, you know, they can really build up that story in. I really love that. I really thought she was going to stay in NXT for a little bit, only because I feel like they were still doing a Tatum Paxley storyline. But I guess it makes sense since Tatum Paxley technically isn't obsessed with Lyra. She's obsessed with the title. It makes sense. So I'm excited for that. Then you got Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell going to SmackDown, which makes sense. So I'm assuming that's why they're kind of doing this whole stalemate, the same thing happened over and over again. Because once Backlash happened, the draft is basically official. So they would be going to SmackDown. So maybe that's why they're not really progressing that storyline, because there's no point of progressing a storyline if, you're going on a separate brand soon. So it makes sense because Alpha Academy is staying and Ivy Now is also staying. So it makes sense. Now we got a quick little Judgment Day segment. Oh wait, before the Judgment Day segment, Awesome Truth versus Alpha Academy. Nothing too special happened here. Awesome Truth ends up winning, but Alpha Academy did lose. So I'm assuming next Monday Night Raw, Chad Gable is gonna bring that up and maybe lash out again. Lash out again because before he lashed out at Maxine in Alpha Academy in tonight's episode of Raw, and they all have very depressed looks on their face, looking very upset, and they're not really liking the new Chad Gable. And of course, they're eventually going to build that up to eventually them turning on Gable, and they're going to still be babyfaces. Gable's going to stay the heel, but they're going to turn on Gable and break away from Gable, because I heard rumors that they're potentially setting up Chad Gable and the Creed brothers to team up, which I really love. So if they do that, I love that idea. But next up, we got Judgment Day. They have a quick segment. Dominic Mysterio is talking. He ends up saying that, how do we not get picked? How did it take until round 3 for us to get picked? Damian Priest is like, are you really? He's like, you're shocked that we didn't get picked until round 3? Damian Priest is mad. He's upset. Talks about how they keep interfering in his business without him knowing, and talks about how they keep failing at it as well. And he basically says, I don't want no help. I don't want no help. Stop interfering. I don't need you guys' help. And it's still showing that, still building that tension of Damian Priest, him being world champion is getting to his head, it's getting to his ego, and eventually they're gonna, maybe turn on Damian. We don't know yet, but maybe they're building that turn, that Judgment Day may turn on him. We got backstage segment. Becky Lynch walks up to Liv Morgan. She, like I said, congratulates her and ends up saying, you got a championship match. Don't know when that championship match is. We don't know when it's at. I don't think it should be a Backlash, because if it's at Backlash, I think that's a little too soon, and I don't know if Liv Morgan wins that match. I think Liv Morgan will be the one to defeat Becky Lynch. I just don't think it's now. I think they're going to hold that off for a different pay-per-view. Then, after she congratulates Liv, Damage Control comes around Becky Lynch, and Dakota Kai ends up saying that, I guess we'll be seeing you on Monday Night Raw. Becky Lynch agrees, and then they walk away. So it looks like that's a potential feud that they may end up doing, because she does have history with Damage Control. So they may end up revisiting that. Now we got the last round of the draft. Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce ends up selecting the picks, ends up saying the picks. The Final Testament got selected by Monday Night Raw, which I'm all for. I'm glad they got selected by Raw. Keep them away from the Pride. Please do. Please keep them away from Pride. From the Pride. The Pride stayed on SmackDown. Keep them away from each other, please. SmackDown ends up selecting DIY, which is a great choice, because DIY was not going to win the tag titles on Raw. They needed to go to SmackDown, where a heel champion is on Raw, so maybe they could dethrone, A-Town Down Under and see what they could do on SmackDown. Raw selects Bronson Reed. Of course, he's fighting for the Intercontinental Championship. Makes sense. SmackDown, another NXT call-up, Blair Davenport. I love this. I love this so much. I'm the biggest Blair Davenport fan. I think she has tremendous potential. I was one of the people who thought Blair Davenport was the one who should defeat Becky Lynch for the NXT Championship. I feel like she should have won the NXT Championship a while ago, but I understand why. Black Davenport is amazing. She's one of the most natural heels you will probably see. Love that. I don't know how they would use her on SmackDown. That's very interesting, especially because they have Bianca, Jade, Bailey, Naomi, and Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. That's kind of a stacked roster on SmackDown. So I don't know where she fits in, but I'm very interested to see that. I'm just glad she got called up because I'm a big Blair Davenport fan, and I hope she gets pushed. I hope she gets pushed as like that dominant, annoying, slimy heel, and I hope she gets pushed, and I hope she gets treated well on the main roster. I hope she don't get lost in the shuffle like an Indy Hartwell or Candice LeRae as long as they did until they finally start making a story. Now we got the main event with Ricochet, Andrade, Jey Uso versus Judgment Day with Finn Balor, JD McDonough, and Damian Priest. I forgot this match was official. I really forgot they set this up last week. Totally forgot. I was shocked when this match happened. But this was a short match, of course, due to the draft. Towards the end, Dominic Mysterio interferes, distracts the ref. Damian Priest has Jey Uso on the top rope, about to go for a choke slam, but JD McDonough interferes and ends up throwing Jey Uso off the top rope. Damian Priest and JD are arguing because Damian Priest ends up saying, "I had him, what are you doing?" JD ends up telling Damian to attack Jey Uso. Of course, Jey Uso ends up recovering. Basically, basically ends up taking out all of Judgment Day, ends up hitting the Uso splash on Finn Balor, pins Finn Balor, and that's it. And then Damian Priest and Jey Uso had a stare down. This was a good episode of Monday Night Raw. This was way better than SmackDown. Way better than SmackDown. This was a good episode. It felt like story actually progressed in this episode. Really love what happened because last week it felt more like filler. Like nothing really happened. It felt like outside the bloodline last week, nothing really happened. This week, storylines actually progressed. It felt like we got some progression, and I can't wait for Backlash. Backlash is actually looking pretty solid, and we don't even have all the matches yet. Very excited for the call-ups they did. Lyra Valkyria, Blair Davenport, Ilya Dragunov. Like, I really love what they did. This night 2 of the draft was definitely better than night 1. Really love what they did. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. Make sure you comment, leave your comments what your thoughts and opinions on this. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say. I really love this episode of Monday Night Raw. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.